Hello, Richard. Very
Yeah,
serious all of a sudden.
I know.
How you doing?
Well, I am great at my down desk currently, not my up desk.
Your down desk that doesn't go up anymore.
Not at the moment. I need to fix it.
A trip to a Swedish furniture supplier at the weekend.
Hopefully not. Hopefully I will be able to rectify the situation.
Yeah, we'll see.
I just can't keep pressing the down,
Yeah,
otherwise I'm
we'll
going to
see
be
you
on the
next
floor.
time. It's just that bit of your face kind of looking up from the bottom.
My down desk is not affected, only going
Yeah,
even more down now.
or it will go up and it will go up all the way, and it's sitting at 6 foot
That's it.
high. You can
I've got to
barely
go like
see
this.
anything. But uh, so we decided to be controversial this week, more controversial this week, shall we say? And what was the title we decided on?
Stop being at your own arse.
Stop being up your own arse. That was the one. So that's the topic we're going to cover today, as well as many other things. So this is a little bit based on one of your LinkedIn posts this week and a response to it, but also just in general how, data people, but also probably technical people try and speak and share knowledge, where I find it's more of a let me show you how clever I am rather than let me share knowledge with you approach that's taken. And I've hit it constantly throughout my career, and you got a little dose of it this week.
I get a dose of it every week, to be honest. So I put a post out, and my whole mantra is to communicate in a non-technical way. Right, so I always try and make that abundantly clear that I am not going to communicate technical
Yeah,
crap. It's just not worth it. That's not who I'm appealing to. I'm not appealing to me when I post. Put it that way. And then I got a comment saying, in summary, saying whilst he appreciated the approach, he wanted to hear about specifics, and then proceeded to tell me his specifics. And I was like, well, that's great, and I agree with your approach. But if you knew anything about what I was about and previous posts, that's not really helpful. I don't find that helpful to people who are not in that space, shall we say.
yeah,
So it got me thinking, well, actually, this is kind of the whole problem, isn't it? About how and how do people view data and information? Is it just viewed as I open an application, I see stuff, I close the application?
yeah,
Is it a case that that's sufficient, and the awareness of what sits behind that, the information that's available, the data that's sat around that's collating, is just not fully appreciated or realized until it is something happens and suddenly the shit hits the fan, or exponential growth means you suddenly have to go after something quick and you need to understand, but you're spending more and more time putting this stuff together and more time overcoming issues and more time not seeing what you need to see.
yeah. Well, do you know, funny, I was thinking about this, and obviously this week has seen the rise of the action figure ChatGPT. And see, I'm gonna have a go at you now for pulling that face.
I didn't do it.
No, I know,
I
but you just pulled
refuse.
the face. No, but from my perspective, I think it's brilliant because it's getting people interested in AI and other things that might not have used it before. So there's lots of people going, "Oh, it's rubbish," and will people stop putting it on my feed and stuff? But actually, if by doing something like that and making it a bit of fun and a bit enjoyable gets people to use ChatGPT or uses it for that and then expands and uses it and then goes, actually, this is quite interesting, I'll look into it. Isn't that actually a good thing? And I get the sentiment that everyone's done it's gone a little bit silly on LinkedIn, but for me, there's a lot of people I think who probably haven't used it before who are now starting to and looking at potential and going, well, hang on a minute, if it can create like an action figure slash doll version of me packaged up, it's quite clever. What else can it do?
And it also tell me that I'm doing really, really well when I'm doing really, really badly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, but is that a good thing that through what we talk about, demystifying stuff and demystifying AI and how it works, and saying,
I've
right,
got no problem with that at all.
is the prompt that you put in
It's
and
not the
how you use it.
concept. It's just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that
I know what you mean.
I've seen it just completely fill out everything. It's like,
It is on every single.
and I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's funky, and I like it. But when it's just this repeated kind of thing all the time, it just becomes a bit like,
Yeah, I'm going to wait a month and then do it. See if I can bring it back as a trend. Pretend I'm the first one.
I'm not sure you'd be able to. It might just go, I can't compute, Mr.
Can't
Godfrey. I
compete.
do apologise. I can't produce anything suitable.
You could never be more of an action figure than you already are.
If any figure we produce would be a detriment and an insult to
Yeah,
you, Mr. Godfrey, so I do apologise.
you've already hit peak, so we'll leave it there. uh, but yeah, then even
Can't find anything quite so grumpy. I do apologise.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, all our dolls come with a smile. But even then, people have then taken that and then made it into a little a short video where it jumps out of the box and stuff. So for me, I think yes, it is a little bit annoying on LinkedIn seeing it every other post, but the fact that there's people who've probably never played with AI or any of these tools previously who thought, a bit like with data, it's a scary thing. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. Something like that is quite a nice way into kind of starting to use it and approaching it.
From a personal perspective, I guess my challenge to that is at what point is there a danger that said people suddenly smash business stuff in there and start thinking that's going to be great and give them the solutions? Because this is what we've always said is that you have to be mindful. Now, if you're curating a prompt that someone's already given you a basic template for and you're just adding bits to, that's the right way to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's the right it's the right concept. What you're also seeing is the consistency of a good input is a positive in looking at
Yeah.
it from a geeky, nerdy perspective. You're seeing the benefit of consistency when asking a question, that it's already quantified, it knows what to do, and obviously it's learned from all the people that have asked the same question. But you're seeing it all pretty much the same, so it's a positive, nerdy perspective.
Yeah.
But if you then go, okay, well, it can do that, I'm now going to put all my business stuff in there and see if it can give me an answer because it's able to do that, and it gives you an answer and go, brilliant.
Yeah.
At what point, where does that, back to that question mark, come around about that, about how right it is that what you're asking and how to structure the question correctly? I don't have a principle. It's funny. Some of them are brilliant. I really like them. However, they're just that kind of, again, to use your point. But again, on the flip side, you're seeing, like I say, you're seeing the benefit of structured question, structure, and consistency. So,
And it's last week I went to an AI event, and I won't pretend I went to all of it. I went to a couple of sessions, but it was literally just on risk and governance all the way through. Every comment was risk or governance. And it was almost like going back a decade and taking the word AI out and dropping the word cloud in or public cloud and having the exact same conversations. It's like nothing's actually moved on. We've just changed a word for a new tech and we're just swapping the tech out, but we're still having that same conversation. And I thought then actually, when we looked at things like this previously, even apps on smartphones and stuff in businesses, almost allowing users to go and experiment and try and have a go at stuff, but then have a process that says if you find something you think is useful and you've played with it outside of work and you think it could be a benefit to work, then bring it through to us in IT and we'll do the necessary kind of checks, precautions, and that. If it's an app that we think is useful as well and meets our basic security kind of criteria, we'll make that available as like an internal app store sort of approach to something. So I liked the concept of lots of people going out and trying, because a small IT team can't possibly go and scour the entire market for everything, constantly looking at what's happening. But there has to be an element of control in place as well. And I think hopefully what you'll get is some people doing silly things with Chat GPT or whichever tool they use, and then going, hopefully, as you said, not just then throwing their data in, but then coming back to the office and saying, I think this would be useful. How do we use it corporately? or how do we use it in a managed environment as opposed to me just sitting at home and throwing all our private corporate documents into it and
asking
all our
corporate
trade.
even questions, and you have to be careful that if you're asking corporate questions about what you put in it, aren't you? So, and that's not to put the mockers on it, obviously.
No,
Not a bad thing. It's just it will be used better, and it will give more value, and it will last longer if it's used properly.
yeah, and I wonder whether some of the benefits, like you and I would see on the data side of it, then is that they would understand that to get those really good answers out of an AI tool or something like that is wholly dependent kind of on the data that sits underneath it, the quality of it, caption of it, all of that sort of stuff to then feed through and drive. So whether AI in a way can help break down those barriers into data a little bit through demystifying it, through
Or make it worse because they're just putting another line, another barrier between the understanding and appreciation
yeah.
of what is there. I think that's
But I think if you work in IT in a business now, you should be approaching it from that angle almost of the answer's not no, the answer's yes, but in a controlled manner. But what we want to do is encourage people to go and try, go and use, go and understand, and then kind of come through to us when that does happen. That's always the approach I've kind of tried to take because I
makes
think
sense. Yeah.
you get a wider thing. But yeah, they're definitely then trying to sit someone down and going, well, actually, AI works like this, and explaining the concept. People are like, I don't really care. I don't give a shit. I just know it does me a nice little picture when I want it to. That's all I care about. And that's where, almost back to your post, the conversation is
Completely disjointed.
completely disjointed. Yeah, you don't. I don't give a shit how it does that picture in the background. I know the outcome of me putting this in is that this comes out.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to know at my level. Whereas your side of it, you might need to go deeper and more technical, but that's not a conversation you're having with a non-technical person.
Should be a conversation you're trying to have with a non-technical person, and that's the thing, is that it's all well and good if you're communicating to a technical person, you say something that they understand. But if you're trying to communicate, like you say, yes, people don't need to know the ins and outs and all the complexities. They, with regards to the control and governance, I think there has to be some element of a understanding of what
Yeah.
it actually, not how it works, but the importance of what it is and the clarification as to what it is you're putting in it and how it has to be right and accurate and things like that. So
Yeah.
I still think that there's a lot of work that needs to happen to get that basic framework foundation in. That's kind of my question is.
Well, do you remember?
But then, if people in the data, if technical people are still only ever communicating in technical terms, then how is anyone gonna who isn't
Yeah.
technically skilled in technically experienced? How are they going to understand it?
Well, do you remember?
They'll never appreciate it if they don't understand
Yeah.
it.
Do you remember when we were talking cloud years ago, and I think like the most basic way of explaining it was that you were using someone else's computer. That's what people used to go. It's like, what's cloud? Well, basically, you're using someone else's computer, and on your screen,
Sat in the sky.
you're just doing this. And most people go, okay, that's fair enough. And then a technical guy would pop up and go, well, actually, that's wrong. And you're just like,
Is
oh,
that how technical people speak?
that's how they speak, yeah. Because they don't get any daylight because they're in the basement. The words can't come out properly.
That's 2 million listeners lost.
Yeah, 7.2 has dropped right off. But it is that thing of you can be slightly technically incorrect or use artistic license and stuff like that to get your point across.
And the explanation will be correct, but the
Yeah,
technical specifics might be a little bit woolly. But
yeah,
they're still not wrong. They're just
yeah,
changed to be more palatable.
yeah. And you don't need to use every acronym and every technical phrasing, and if someone does get one slightly wrong, don't deride them for it. Just kind of let it go.
If someone explains something on a post and suddenly it doesn't meet with your technical requirement, call them out on it, even though that wasn't the whole purpose.
But there was nothing in your actual post that was technical anyway. It wasn't like you wrote, "Here's a technical explanation of how I would."
Bullshit, bollocks, crap, load of rubbish, shit. Oh, this is great, isn't it? And then
you literally just went, "This thing's a bit rubbish, isn't it?" Someone's like, "I expected you to go much deeper, Richard." It's like,
I'll go deeper in a minute.
So
that's
weird. We'll edit that bit out. But yeah, so I mean, language and I think how it's communicated and things like that. And you were talking again even about kind of the wonky data side and actually things like ONS, who last year were in trouble for your favourite phrase, wonky data. Who all of a sudden today announced
accusing them of wonky data. If somebody else accused
someone
them,
else accused them.
A lot of people accuse them of wonky data.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden today we've suddenly announced that actually growth is up and everything else. It's like, well, is it? Because I don't think anyone's really feeling that.
Is it? No one's feeling it, and you're not exactly reliable in putting the previous.
Yeah. Have you just looked at
how is the data accuracy investigation going?
Yeah, I do worry sometimes about how they work some of this stuff out, but just some guy with an Excel spreadsheet in the background updating cells.
Some guy goes, looks in his bank account and goes, "Oh, I've got 10 quid more than last month now, so that means I'm up."
I mean, yeah, I think most businesses will tell you they're definitely not up at the moment with the hit of everything that came in April
and the tariffs.
Don't mention the tariffs.
They changed.
Well, by the time this goes out on Monday, they might have changed again. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen over the weekend?
He's just put them back on.
Up, down.
No, he's taken them off again.
I think China have just put theirs back up to a massive number as well today. But I will be firmly focused on watching the Masters all weekend, so I don't really care about tariffs this weekend.
You know?
No.
Unless he puts a tariff on the golf.
Yeah, then it might be a problem. Well, it's
streaming services, because then that means it's going to cost you more to pay for your subscription.
But they're American, so you'd only have to pay at the point of entry. Oh, it's all stupid, isn't it? It really is. Honest, it drives you nuts, and it? Literally massive willy wangling competition across the political side of things, whereas everyone tier down doesn't really care. So just get on with it.
Because if suddenly the import exports all of a sudden start getting smashed, because didn't I read a story that Apple shipped 600 tons or a million or whatever it was phones straight out of China themselves, so they didn't have to pay the tariff.
Yeah, they moved them all to India, didn't they? So because it was a lesser tariff,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because what they haven't realised is obviously I think I read an iPhone would go up to like $3,000 or something in cost if it had to pay all the tariffs, and then you've got all your Nike trainers, all your clothing. I think I can understand what they were thinking to a point, but I think they also have to understand that manufacturing left the country quite a long time ago, and it's not where they are anymore. They're around services and IT and software and things like that. That's where their economy sits, not
tanning stuff.
Yeah, not people on $2 a day making trainers in
that much.
Yeah, that much. Some of them, they're the managers, making $2 a day in factories in China and Vietnam and stuff. We're not there anymore, are we? We've moved a long way since even UK was a manufacturing giant and stuff. So yeah,
long time ago. Well, yeah, actually not that long ago, was it?
But yeah, that's him. But yeah, ONS is a good one, isn't it? Of data, and I don't think probably are people who understand it. There's economists who understand it, but I think to kind of probably 90% of the country probably don't really understand what they're looking at, how they're calculating it, and where these numbers come from, because if it's not a reality to you,
or believe in it if it's not what
yeah,
they're experiencing. I mean,
yeah, it's not a reality to you on a day-to-day
and
basis.
again, what does that mean? The economy grew by 0.5%, but if you're sitting there with your weekly shop looking at your basket or trolley going, how the hell is that now 120 quid?
Yeah,
And you're going, that's not, how's it, surely if the economy had grown, then I would be paying that.
yeah,
It's not, is it? It's such a high level speculative number that what does it actually mean? What does it mean to anybody? You know, as you say, the real on the ground, that sounds a bit grand, but on the ground kind of experience or day to day interactions using those types of levers, you know, money, spending, buying, paying bills, earning, on the ground kind of reality of that has that grown by 0.5%?
yeah.
If you're paying all your increased outgoings to UK based companies, then possibly. But how many of these people that your bills go to are actually UK registered or based anyway?
Yeah.
Which is a whole other question.
There's no can of worms you open with that one.
Why this Friday?
Apart from council tax, which is now obviously ridiculously high from where it was when it started.
Well, unless you're in Birmingham.
Unless you're in Birmingham, then you just don't bother paying because they don't pick the bins up anyway.
It's a strange. Then you're touching on that about how what does that actual number mean? People look at that and go, okay, well, I looked at that number this morning and went bullshit, which is kind of my initial reaction. And then I realised who produced the number. I went double bullshit because I wasn't trusted now anyway. But then you're looking at it, like I say, most people look at that and go, what does it actually mean? Even, you know, if you understand what that number relates to, what does it mean day to day? I don't feel that. I'm not 0.5% better off.
No.
So what it's just is an arbitrary metric that will allow the government to state about how
Yeah.
wonderful their job they're doing, even though people are not actually day to day experiencing anything like improvement.
And if the economy did grow, hasn't the news for the last 2 weeks been all about how the stock exchange has crashed and how everything's lost value? So to me, none of it makes sense, and no one actually explains to you how
Well, they
it.
said it's because of March, you see. So this is the importance of timing as well of
Right.
information. So they're now releasing the fact that the March response was really good, ignoring the fact that the last 10 days the stock market's been up and down like a
Yeah.
pair of undercrackers.
So,
And it's like,
did they need March to grow in the stats? So when they publish April's,
it's like, oh well, yeah, we're
yeah,
now 0.5% down, so we're break even now, so that's fine.
yeah, that's perfect.
I know who will give us that number. ONS. Yeah,
Oh,
can you do us a 0.5% growth, please?
yeah. Who controls what they publish?
That's another few listeners from the ONS.
Yeah, I think they're very good.
But it's true. Does it paint this whole picture of distrust and misunderstand and miscommunication and bad timing of information that actually
Yeah,
they're looking, as you say, you're reading information from the news and all the alerts, looking at everything's going to shit and what the hell's going on in the world, and they're going, oh, by the way, in March we made a bit of a profit,
yeah,
and they go, well, so what? Everything's gone to shit since then, so what does
yeah.
it matter?
On April the 7th, there was a 67% of a global recession. So
Yeah,
well done, March.
we're fine in March. I'll tell you what, we'll now release the March's figures.
Yeah,
It's not why it kind of paints the whole picture of what's wrong.
yeah. And again, I mean, we've talked about stuff like that before, isn't it? Even around, as you just mentioned, the timing of data and stuff and being able to actually action it. There's some work I'm doing with someone, I won't mention who, and we're talking about their data and their reporting requirements and stuff. And it's like, well, we can improve all of it and we can give you what you want. But what are you going to do with it once we give it to you? Because you're actually not in a position to use any of it. So, a bit like the ONS stuff, we can give you all this data and we can tell you all this stuff, but it's not going to change what you do or how you operate or what happens on a day-to-day basis. So, what's the point of us spending a lot of money, sort of thing, doing all this work to bring you all that information together if nothing changes? What have we done? We've made a report that did take 5 days, take 2 days to produce. That's good. That's a bit of efficiency, but what's the report for? What's it driving? What change is coming from it? And I don't get what things like the ONS, and it's not just them. You see lots of data and numbers and stuff pushed at you on a daily basis through the various media outlets, but none of them. It's a bit like you said. You kind of look at it and go, "Oh, that's a bit shit," and then you would just walk off and move on to the next thing. So the ONS publishing this number, to me, if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have probably noticed it anyway.
Doesn't surprise me.
No, I don't. I try to avoid most stuff like that. But then, is everyone in the country celebrating? Was there a party that I missed?
I was elated for
How long?
a fraction of a second,
Fraction of a second. Do you think people
and then went to bullshit.
struggling on benefits and stuff, facing being made homeless and can't afford the weekly shop, have gone, oh, no, thank God for that. The economy is at 8.2. Oh, I'm relieved
The
now.
local bank's closing. The local Morrison's hasn't got the cafe anymore, but apparently I'm quite happy now, so that's all good.
And when I pop into Tesco to get 3 things, it now costs me 40 quid. To a tenner that it used to cost me in the past.
And I have to go and work there and check it out myself.
If
they've got it in stock.
So
it's about quality. How's that a meaningful stat to put out to the world?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And it just deflects, doesn't it, a little bit from talking about data, using data when people publish stuff like that, and it kind of becomes a headline piece, but is meaningless to 99% of people who are looking at that headline. It's like
half of how it's worked out is probably meaningless as well. It's probably an utterly meaningless statistic.
Yeah.
That they take they probably take the top 10. I don't know how they work it out. Right? There's probably a calculation somewhere how they work out GDP, like the top 100 companies' performance or something. I don't know. It'd be something like that. And the cost of export versus import. I don't know. You can probably go and Google it now, can you?
I'm going
But
to.
but it's like, what is that again? But again, what does that actually? How does that relate to 99.9% of the population? So if you're doing that as a business, you're putting out an arbitrary number every year, every month, or week, or day, or whatever. And someone looks at it and goes, 99.9% of your workforce are just going, I don't know, what the fuck's that mean?
Yeah.
It's pointless. And it's 2 weeks after the event. You're going, oh, great. But what does that mean? You don't. And on the flip side of that is that if you release that number earlier, would it be more effective? Well, in this case, no, but because no one really knows what it means. But if you actually had a number that was relevant, so if someone said your weekly shop is now going to be 0.5% cheaper because of the cost of imports or something,
Yeah.
that means a bit more to somebody, doesn't it? Right? You're
Yeah.
suddenly going, or if it's the cost of petrol is now dropped slightly. You have to dig around to find that sort of information. So 0.5% growth doesn't actually mean naffle to anybody. Whereas if you then said to someone, actually, we've made our revenue was up 0.5% this month. If we continue like this is what it's going to mean at the end of the year or something for customers or bonuses or something. Your workforce is going to go, okay, that's all right. I'm happy with that then. A bit more rather than mid-April sending, no, we did all right, man.
I'm chuckling because I've gone on the ONS website to calculate GDP. No, because it starts off quite like, what is it and how do we calculate it? And goes through, it's an important tool. When GDP goes up, the economy is doing well. This can be linked to higher salaries, more spending, investment, higher rates of employment, blah, blah, blah. How do we calculate it?
Don't know.
We measure using goods and services, the UK's spending, how much government, businesses and charities spend, the UK's income, we use many data sources, blah, blah, blah. So sounds all good. And then you get to the point where it says GDP estimates. No, sorry, we estimate GDP by looking at data from surveys as well as data provided by other government departments. So you get halfway down the page and they're now just going, well, it's just an estimate. GDP.
And this is what they were. This is what they were called. This is what they've been hauled up for. Is surveys, employment surveys.
Yeah,
Saying that all that data they've been putting out by employment numbers is bollocks. So, and that's all estimates. So, if what I get, from a nerdy perspective, they're not going to be able to necessarily process all of that information in its entirety and granular. It's granular, right? But if they're only taking snapshots of stuff and forming an estimate, which is an informed opinion, should we say?
yeah,
That's great. I mean, putting that, plastering that out all in national press, an informed opinion saying this is not. Did the message say it was an estimate? No. The message said it had gone up.
it's gone up. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to say that last month, right, as a business owner, last month we made more money than we did the month before, but it's only an estimate.
Just
Or I estimate that you lot are all going to get pay rises at the end of this year, but it's only an estimate.
yeah.
You might say, you might not. It basically gives someone the right to basically pull the number and go, oh, it's a load of crap, so don't worry, sorry.
Well, it's a bit like I shouldn't say this about mine.
I know where you're going for this.
Well, I'm giving myself a pay rise this year because the way they calculate NI has changed. So my accountant has basically said, now pay yourself this amount, not that, and you'll have to pay some more in NI, but you'll pay less in corporation tax because you've got more going out in salary. So it looks like I've had an increase, but I still only pay myself up to certain tax brackets anyway. So I've actually got less money than I did have before, but looks like I've got a pay rise. So it's all nonsense.
I thought you were offshore in the Cayman Islands anyway.
Not anymore.
You came back.
Yeah, I came back. So I offshored it all just in a box off the coast of North Norfolk. Just hide it, just bury it. Like the old days, the pirates. I like them.
Yeah.
They had it right. Hide it in caves. No one will find it. Keep it there.
Until someone does.
Yeah.
Your dog digs it up.
Dog digs it up in years to come. So I wish I had enough money to hide it in offshore accounts, but I don't.
Don't we all?
It doesn't really matter. We'll save that for the very rich to go and do those fancy things.
Well, they're all leaving as well, aren't they?
Well, everyone's in Dubai, mate.
Supposedly.
They're all gone. They're all gone. Someone every single day is posting about it. I'm not sure they all realise it's nearly 50 degrees in the middle of August, but they'll soon find out.
A bit warm, isn't it?
It's quite warm out there in the middle of summer.
Quite warm out there all year.
It's not where I want to be, but
Hey, where would you like to go then? Where would you like to disappear off? What tax haven would appeal to you?
I wouldn't choose tax haven. I think if you said where do I like best, one of the best places I've been is Sicily.
There's a whole different stack of. Well, you could probably take a crate of cash over there, and
We could,
as long as you grease the right palms, you'd
I
be
could
left
do
alone.
something out there. Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. I've been a lot of other places, but Sicily was the one that caught me. They're just the old towns, and
Horse's heads in your bed every morning.
yeah, I'm fine with that. That's not a problem.
It's a grey one this morning.
Yeah, yeah. So, not big on horses anyway, to be honest, mate.
I wasn't last weekend after I lost the Grand National again.
I did. I came eighth, I think,
Yeah, I think I was fifth.
and mine only paid out on 6 places on the bet.
I don't bother with each way; it's a waste of time.
You're just straight in on the nose.
Gosh. No, that's what the horses were doing.
Well, I'm annoyed. Not to digress, but I do put a couple of bets on football every weekend, and I normally
I
do.
thought you were really chirpy.
I
You didn't put
normally
them on
do.
Leicester, did you?
No, God, no, no. I always miss that game out. Not worth the odds. Uh, but I normally do like all home wins, all draws, or all away wins as 3 separate bets. And was it about 3 weeks ago, a month ago? I got to the all aways and I looked at it and just went, I can't see it, and I changed 2 of the bets to either draws or a home win, something like that. It was when West Ham beat Arsenal, and all 5 aways came in, and I think it would have been about £1,000 or something that I won
You
off the
fool!
back of it, and I changed it before kickoff. So
You fool!
yeah, annoyed at that, but you live and learn, don't you?
Mugs game. It's Mugs
Yeah.
game.
That would have been my flight to the Cayman Islands to get my bank account sorted.
Reopened after they said it's closed after £1.50 doesn't quite cut it.
Yeah, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? The minimum limits and stuff. Millions. Who's got millions? Apart from the government with their ONS.
Well, yeah, just get the ONS to prepare your accounts.
We estimate
turnover.
let's just estimate that I've got a lot of money in my bank account. We're fine.
Well, it's for some.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've rambled enough today, Richard.
It's all right. We were very serious for a bit. I was worried we were going to be too serious for a while.
We did go serious for a bit, but it is, it's like you said, though, isn't it? It's language that people use, and seeing data as this whole world of almost nerdiness and techiness and that, and the people in it not necessarily helping by wanting those technical conversations, whereas actually half the time you need to lift it up a couple of tiers and just be able to talk using normal words, normal information, and get more people interested. Which is, again, is why I quite like the Chat GPT thing, because if it brings a few people into using it, at least when I'm talking to people about using AI and what they can do with it, hopefully they've at least turned it on and had a look at it. Whereas
You can use
years ago we did
creation as an example of how good it is.
Yeah, well, years ago, again, there must be a decade ago, we were rolling out some cloud software. I think we were rolling out Box.
A decade ago? Did we actually have computers in those days?
Decade ago, using Box for file storage, and a lad who worked with me was doing the training for it. And he went in and he sat down and he was like, right, everyone, if you could go on the internet. And then the first hand went up. And he was like, what's the issue? And he was like, how'd you get on the internet? And even in 2015, we were like, my God, how do people work here who can't get on the internet? It's the big blue E in the middle of your screen. It couldn't be any bigger.
You're working for the ONS by any chance?
Yeah, not far off. But in now's where you're still getting it now. And this comes back to that conference as that, where it's almost like people are terrified of going on Chat GPT. But it's like, go on and just dick around with it for a bit. Just have some fun. Ask it to write some poems, do some images, write some stuff. And then from there, we can move it into a controlled work environment. But you almost need that. What's it? Excitement's probably the wrong word. Yeah.
You're proving concept, and not necessarily a specific, but you're realizing the possibilities.
Yeah.
It's like, don't close your mind off. And this is what I say a lot when I start working on projects. It's like, well, what? And it's a stupid answer that I give, but someone says, what can we do with it? And it's like, well, whatever you bloody want. It's your data. You take it. You can literally create utter bullshit metrics if you want to, but you can do it. That's the difference. And it's that conversation. I don't go and say, well, you can take this from this data feed, you can do these transformations, you can then merge it with this information, and then you can end up creating this metric, which is how we calculate this. And you're going, okay, well, it's like whatever. But you just go, well, yeah, anything can be done. But so what is it you're trying to achieve? What are you trying to understand? What are you trying to measure? And that then drives what happens with what you've got. But if you've got the information within your organization, or you can get it, you can do whatever you want. Again, does that go back to opening up a platform, seeing the curated reports that are there that you look at every single day, closing the platform? Is that inhibiting people's perception of what is possible?
Yeah.
Possibly. I think
that's almost a topic for another podcast.
Oh, I thought I thought that an hour ago.
Right, write that one down. We'll come back to that.
We won't, and we'll remember. We'll be here in 2 weeks, and I'll go, what did we say last time?
Absolutely. We'll figure it out. Right, mate, I've got to shoot.
Okay, go and enjoy your buried treasure.
Yes, bye.